Born
Hello
ready
and
kid.
welcome to MotoGP Mac. We have Simon Z on today, or Simon Z.
Yeah.
Getting close.
Shimon, Simon, anything goes.
Simon, okay. And we have we just did the Grand Prix, the Grand Prix of
Come on, you can get
Silverstone.
it.
Yeah, Silverstone.
There you go.
Yeah, I was trying to figure out which English one had a brain fart going on. So here we go.
Situation normal there.
Normal, yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm in so much pain. My head's gonna fall off as I talk to you. So I've been sitting in the same spot. My back popped out.
Oh no, nasty one. So just so everyone knows, it was the British Grand Prix was on at Silverstone. Yeah. Just
it's Silverstone. Yeah.
And I suppose, look, there was a lot went on for the whole Silverstone weekend. Firstly, the 5 weeks or 4 weeks drought is over. It's good to get that finish with, I suppose, but I suppose a couple of stories that came out. Obviously, we knew Morbidelli was going to be evacuated from Yamaha, but speaking on Friday, Chibati came out with a really interesting topic about Morbidelli, and they're saying, like, we're really, really interested in him. And what I find this very interested in is that he also said in that statement that Pramac are the only satellite team that will be assigned worked factory bikes. There's only going to be 4 bikes next year.
Yeah, well, I know they wanted to cut the year bikes down. Remember?
Yeah. Huh? No. There's only going to be There's only going to be 4 factory GP24s next year. Mm-hmm. So 2 are going to be in the factory team and 2 are going to be in Pramac. Now this has come from Chibati. However, last week VR46 announced that Bezzecchi was staying with them. Mm-hmm. And that he was going to get works equipment. And everyone was thinking, is that going to be 5? And the question was put straight to Chibati, is it going to be 5? And he said, absolutely not. It's going to be 4. But we have to meet with the riders to discuss the plans or options, because realistically what's happened now with Yamaha kicking Morbidelli out, Ducati do want him, I think, more so to please VR46, and I think it's now a bargaining chip to say, if you give us Bezzecchi in the Pramac team, that opens your slot for Franco Morbidelli for next year, Joe, in the VR46 team. So I think they've kind of, how to say, they have their arm behind their back now. For the Ducati have, actually, look, I'll put it in a very Irish way, Ducati have VR46 by the balls now. Because they can give that Pramac seat away to someone else, and Morbidelli will be left without a ride. Now they're very interested in Morbidelli, and they want Morbidelli, and they want to give him a GP23 for next year. Mm-hmm. But the only one that's now standing in the way of it, and I think it's very smart, the only one standing in the way of that happening is VR46 by saying, we want Bezzecchi on our bike. So I think they're going meeting with the satellite teams, managers, and the riders over the course of this weekend at Silverstone to discuss that further, or who goes where. Now,
well, they obviously won't be able to keep Morbidelli and Bezzecchi, so something's got to give, and I think that their best interest is to take care of Morbidelli at this point, as he's part of the VR46. And if that means a move for Bezzecchi to Pramac, again, my opinion only, I don't think it's fair at all to Zarco, because obviously he's the one that's going to have to give his seat away. And I think for many races, he's been a dark horse. It's hard to argue potentially still has. Maybe he's not a future world champion, but he's definitely competitive.
Yeah, so the plot then thickens even further based off that. So yeah, Zarco is definitely, or Di Gianantonio is definitely
out.
Going to be a victim. Like, okay, yeah. I would think it would be Zarco would be out of Pramac. they may offer him the
Di Antonio seat.
Di Antonio seat. I don't think he'll accept the step back off factory equipment, to be very honest. He's not at the point of his career where if he goes backwards, he's going to. Now, saying that, staying on another year on the same bike, although there's massive rumors that LCR Honda, and he has publicly admitted it, Zarco, that Honda and LCR have been in touch to talk about a future together. Now, for me,
talk about a career move that gonna end your career.
yeah, true.
Yes, and no, right? Like for me, where I see this is that this could be a really good move for Zarco. I reckon he will get a long-term contract. Like let's call it a spade a spade. Bradle is completely shit. Honda need a good test rider.
I'm gonna say that. Yep, they need a test rider.
They need a good test rider and someone who knows probably the best bike on the grid inside and out, and that is Johan Zarco, right? And my view of this is that
interesting. You're saying they're going to get him for the information.
Well, that's what KTM did with Jack Miller.
Yeah.
And test riders are harder and harder to come by as it is, because they have to be a test rider, but they have to be fast enough to make them their info good for their top rider. You just can't pull anybody off and say, okay, he's a test rider.
Like personally, when I look at it, I think financially it'll be a very good. Like he's at the end of his career, so he needs big deals. He doesn't need someone now that's going to pay him $100,000 a year. Right? He needs maybe $500,000 to $2 million a year sort of bracket to smooth himself over. Secondly, right now Honda is in a very weak position, so he can nearly go in there and dictate the terms of his contract. He is more valuable to them, to Honda, than he is to Ducati right now. Do you know what I mean? So my view of it, Honda's budget, even if they spent a good chunk of that money to get what's in Zarco's head out of it and into their engineering, whomever, it's going to do it. But to get that, like they need to rob. They do need to rob. Well, they do need to poach some engineers as well. But like I think, if I'm very honest, I think it would be a good career move in him, because he could probably dictate that he could have another 2 or 3 years on the grid and then move to a test rider. Whereas Ducati right now are saying, listen, you can take this old bike, you can take this. Do you know what I mean? There's no major value in Ducati for Zarco. For me, when I look at it, there's a massive amount of but saying that, it's a massive risk moving to like you saw every fucking Honda this weekend closing the front. Didn't matter whether it was a HRC chassis or whether it was the Calyx chassis. So like they're in a world of pain. You know, they have a rider that's been in essence given the Japanese kind of way of show your stuff move closer to the door.
Carry, they have a sword in the shower.
And he's like, now I think Zarco's been very smart in the way that he's approached it, because he's come out and he said it's really nice to have the interest from Honda. Do you know what I mean? So
but I think
he's letting Ducati know as well, like, okay, I could bring my shit there too, you know?
Yeah, but everyone knows he's giving up being competitive just for the sake of staying another 2 or 3 seasons in MotoGP, because even if his information that he's going to bring with is going to be so vital for the next generation of Honda machine, and let's say this one will be super successful machine, it'll take a few years. At that point, I think he won't be relevant. You know, by the time the new machine will be competitive, Zarco will not be relevant after a couple of bad years in HRC, if that's the scenario.
Yeah, and look, I would agree with you in that, except for if you look at yesterday's sprint race, you know, where were Hondas? If you look at today's race,
where were the Japanese? The first Japanese bikes ended up in, what was it, 14th place?
Yeah.
So where I would put it to you is, name another rider right now that Japanese could get that could give them direction of what a good bike feels like. And this is one of the things I said when Jack Miller moved to KTM. One of the first day, 1 second there.
I mean, the Rins move was amazing. Talking about the Japanese, that was a smart move. But there's no more talent that is willing to go there. Mir tried, that didn't work out.
It's just too rough. It's the bike. It's not the riders. I mean, they can say that all they want, but it's if you only have one after the other, and it's going on for years now. It's, you know.
But it's just like Jack Miller. When Jack Miller moved to KTM, right? As the years go on, Jack will lose his importance to the company unless he goes out and blitzes it, right?
Yeah.
But if you look at Honda right now, in general, right, they haven't a fucking clue what direction to go. They don't know whether to go north, south, east, or west.
Exactly.
And what they need is someone to come there and tell them what a good bike feels like compared to their bike. Because Mark clearly has his own thing.
Yeah, and his style is totally different than everybody else's too.
But when you look at what Zarco did last year, and probably this year, he was the guinea pig for all the new parts. He was their race test rider. You know what I mean? The parts, the new stuff went to him first, rather than to the factory team, which I find brilliant. Joe, in my view, that's the way to do it. You have a good test rider. That's fast. Like Zarco, I was effing and blinding at Zarco yesterday because I thought Zarco could have won that race yesterday. Yeah. First 5 laps, he did all his damage.
Agree. I agree.
You know? And realistically, it's not that I don't want him to win a race, but I especially don't want him to win a race in the wet. Do you know what I mean? Because everyone then says, it doesn't matter. Like, remember Jack Miller.
Because of the conditions, absolutely.
Yeah. Remember, Jack Miller was never seen as a good rider because he had that one race in Aston where
conditions.
He won. You know? So, and it's just, and then when you could even see it himself when he finally won the race in the dry. So that got him. Do you know what I mean? That broke him down. Then I kind of said like that legitimizes me that I can win in both wet and dry.
Yeah.
Is Zarco? Look, do I wake up every race day and saying Zarco is going to to blow everyone out of the water today? I don't. I'll be very honest. And I think he's very happy. Like if you look at Pisecki, Martin, Bagnaia, and Bastianini, do you know what I mean? That's a fucking lineup and a half. Okay, well, Bastianini's not really performing right now, but the other three is a lineup to have. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
So, and I think Ducati are kind of saying to him, look, it's either going to be Grassini or it's going to be World Superbikes, and he's already shut down World Superbikes. But I think go. Yeah.
You know, I don't think Zarco is a good rider as a material for a project, a long-term project like that. Because mind you, what happened with KTM, he had so much issues with the lack of success with the bike underneath him that he just, he dropped the towel at the first season when he was signed up for 2. So that's a testament to his character, I think.
Yeah, I get you, but like when you look at where he was when he was in KTM. He jumped off a Yamaha, which was one of the bikes to be on, and he moved to a project like KTM, right? And they were mostly at that stage Honda engineers that they had poached. And realistically, when you look at it, they fucked them all out because the engineering wasn't up to standard. I think when you look at it this year, or then when his move into Ducati he learned so much about structure, understanding testing of the bike, the mechanical. I think this is a very different Zarco from that phase of to where
he also matured, of course.
Yeah, but I think he learned and he understood. And like when you look at it, like last year, he was going to tracks there, up to the midpoint of the season, but he was setting up a bike that was completely different to everyone else's because he had the active or the front right device going. But look, I think he'll be a key signing and a key target for Honda that they will want to get him and they will pay to get him. And they will, and I think think it's probably a good move because I think realistically Ducati will only give him a 1-year deal if they do give him anything.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? And you're kind of saying, okay, in the latter part of my career, I wouldn't mind doing 2 more years of racing and then 5 years of a test rider. Do you know what I mean? And Honda will pay him nicely to do that.
And Honda, nobody wants to go on the Honda, period. Unless they're getting paid big bucks, they're not going there. You know. So,
well, like you look at Marc Marquez in the sprint race, and his comments after, and he said, "I knew Joan Mir was behind me, so I let him pass so I could see what was happening with the bike."
Yeah,
now,
I heard that.
Is that either Marquez blowing his hole about like I was fucked tired, or I had no more grip, or whatever, and that's the excuse to let Johan pass? I don't know, but like even today, in today's race, I think I don't know. It's just he just didn't seem to be there. Do you know what I mean? Like he made a great start. He got up into the top 10. And then he kind of plateaued, and then he crashed. Now, okay, he was missing the front wing, but it just didn't seem to be the Marc Marquez magic there. And all this shit of now I'm just riding around collecting data for Honda. Do you know what I mean? Like he was using, I thought it was really weird. He was using the old original HRC frame. So like the one from fucking Argentina.
Really?
It just shows how lost they are.
What are you researching? If you're
I think it shows how lost they are. He doesn't know which directions to point anymore. He's willing to try everything and anything.
Yeah, but Mir was trying it as well with the old aero and all of this. And when you look at it, then Nakagami was running the two Calyxes.
With new aero. Yeah.
So why are they not giving that new aero to Marc? And I think this is Marc being Marc. This Marc reaffirmed during the weekend that like I am a Honda rider. Joe, I have a contract for next year. Blah 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 blah. Now he didn't say I'm planning to see out my contract. He just said I have a contract for next year. But I suppose for me, when I was looking at it, it's like, okay, they're not giving the parts to Marc. They're giving them to Taka to try. Now Bradl has already had him on the track. Do you know what I mean? And now it's Taka's turn, which.
And historically, 100%. Marquez used to always have a fit if anybody got the parts first. That throws me right there.
So there's a little thing there as well for me, is that like the Japanese are saying, actually no, Marc, you're not going to test them. We're going to give them to Taka, which is a little bit weird for me, especially on the statements that Alex Rinn said. You know, part of the reason that he was leaving Honda is that they didn't use me. All the new parts went to Repsol. Nothing came down to us to test or whatever.
Right.
And, I think it's, I for me, it's kind of very worrying that they're gone back to the base setting that they used in Portimao, Argentina, that chassis. The aero hasn't changed. Do you know what I mean? Not a lot on that bike has changed. I understand that they might want to be getting an eye into where they are, but Jesus, like that's massive step back. That's literally just thrown all and every single bit of data they've had down the gully. Second thing that doesn't make sense to me is that why would they go back to that setting, right? Now it's good that maybe that they have Joan and Marc on the same chassis, right? But why would they not put the new aero, just say, on that old HRC chassis that Taka was running? Why are they leaving it on the Calyx? Do you know what I mean? And again, it's like fucking HRC, like run the 4 riders on the same bikes, the exact same frames, the exact same specification, get your fucking data. But no, they have 3 different spec bikes.
Right.
Now, I think Iker Lecuona was the HRC chassis, to be fair. But again, like you can't really take his data in it because he's fucking brand new still to it. You know what I mean? He's nothing to back it on except a World Superbike.
When everything's different, you can't get data. That's like when they had the 8 Ducatis and they said, but the Ducatis are so different, you couldn't transfer data. Same thing with this Honda. If you have 4 different Hondas and you put them out there, you can't transfer data. You can't back up and say what's good, what's bad, what's indifferent. Well, how do you know?
Yeah. It just doesn't make sense. And then, like, I think my own personal stance on this is that Rin's leaving is a big loss to them, massive loss to them.
I don't know if they see it that way. I don't know if they feel like they missed Rins as a valuable rider. I don't think they value him.
I don't know. I think you're right, but I think that's what they'll come to rue is the fact that they've lost him. Like, he is right now, he is the only one that can translate anything on that Honda.
Yeah,
he is the only one that can do it, right? And okay, obviously he's injured right now, but like, he could give a small bit of a direction. Like, his riding style probably is the way that the Honda needs to be ridden. Do you know what I mean? And that is not the old Honda way of trying to dive it in on the nose, which Marquez still tries to do, where he tries to go an inline 4/V4 method. And I don't know, did you see it in the few laps where Pecco and Bezzecchi were going around with each other today? Did you see the different lines Pecco has?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Pecco is absolutely. Pecco has its own.
Him and Rins have the exact same riding style for a V4, which is the fastest way around the corner, because it's a blend of the two. It's not wide arcing lines, massively arcing, but it's not as aggressive as Bezzecchi and Marquez use. So I think losing Rins is a big thing for Honda. Honda will probably, you're right, probably not acknowledge it, but I think for me, when it was confirmed, I think it's a big loss.
Yeah, I was shocked to let him go. He was the number one rider, in my opinion, other than Marquez himself. And Marquez, then Rins. And then if you want to put all the riders in, with Fabio. He's right there with Fabio.
Like, if you look at feature races this year, right? Marc Marquez hasn't scored points in one of them. John Mir, I think, has crashed in majority of them.
Yeah.
Taka, and I'm just like, what do you do? Like, what you do?
I keep asking myself the same. How do they get out of it? And going back to the Zarco idea, do you think that's the right strategy? Like, it almost sounds like they've given up on the engineering aspect, and they're trying to get a rider from, with experience from a good bike to save them. Like, come on, you come on board and you tell us, and you tell us what's the direction, because we're lost.
Yeah, well, like I've known you follow soccer or whatever, right? But like, you see a lot of these players now that are towards the end of their careers, all signing up for leagues and teams in the Saudi league and whatever, right? And they're getting paid 100 million a year, whereas they were getting paid maybe 10 million a year here. So look, I think the stage where Zarco is, personally, I think he probably has 1, maybe 2 years max left in MotoGP with Ducati. I think he could have 2 or 3 years with Honda and a guaranteed test rider role. So, or KTM would be also itching to maybe take him as well, because, like, hands down, Danny Pedrosa has done the best job as a test rider of any team.
Can we unpack this for a second? Can we unpack this? So when Marc Marquez came to Honda, he won in his debut season on the Honda, which wasn't his work of doing. It was a bike that was developed by Pedrosa that he got. And if you guys remember, the decline of the Honda started from there. Do you guys remember the few years of the bad chattering? That was when Marc started to develop the bike.
It went down.
And the bike became unrideable from one season to the other. I think that was, Marc's own doing. It's not a good development bike.
No, look, I suppose there's a natural thing that comes in here, right? Pedrosa's results did start coming downhill from 2016 or 2017, right? And it's always the case.
Changed. The bike has changed.
the bike has changed, but we actually did this. Well, I did research on this, right? I always look for the number 2 bike in a championship year to understand where that is. And that didn't happen. I can't remember. I think it was 2018 or 2019 that the second Honda slipped outside the top 10. Do you know what I mean? So but then that's when a drastic change, like for example, Morbidelli in 2020 nearly won the championship on a 2019 frame. Do you remember from the M1, right? So and then when he used the bike in 2021, he couldn't ride the bike on that 19 frame because the engine characteristics had changed. Like what with Honda? Okay, we saw last year they changed it from a front bias bike to a rear bias bike, right? So they've no data right now. They have zero data. Still, compared to what they normally have. And Taka said this is that normally it's just a slight tweak to the bike what they do, but what happened mainly with Honda is that they started listening to Marc Marquez over Pedrosa, and then when Pedrosa retired, he was still looking to they didn't right. Like again, it was the Japanese way of having everything in-house in Japan, and I think Pedrosa, while he still wanted to ride bikes, there was a European manufacturer that was only, I will call it, an hour or two's flight away from him. Do you know what I mean? He could go down, do his test, get back home. Do you know what I mean? Whereas if he went with Honda, every couple of weeks he'd be flying over to Japan. That's not a quality of life. But I think he now Michele Pirro as well is good, but KTM are in trouble in my view because Danny Pedrosa is getting to retirement age.
Yeah, he is. Yeah.
And they need someone.
Can I backtrack on somebody saying you're both right on that? When I looked at that for the Honda, they came out and remember you had the 2013, right? That was the one they just did with their inception. Then they had problems with it. Then they kept that they were screwing around with that chassis for years. They couldn't get it straightened out. They were using a 2015 swing arm, and they said no, we got to use the 13. So they went back again. God damn it! Keep talking.
Yeah, look, like the switching chassis is no. There's no major thing in MotoGP. Like, look, Yamaha switched back to a 2021 chassis this year. Do you know what I mean?
No. What I'm saying is that it kept getting worse and worse and worse every year, a little bit, and Marquez kept overriding it. But then it hit a fulcrums where he couldn't outride it anymore, and then it went down to twos.
Yeah, I genuinely think they actually started listening to Marquez's feedback over Pedrosa because he was the one winning.
Oh yeah,
right? And that's what happened to the Honda is that the Honda became more and more and more on the nose that it all of a sudden became a light switch.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you know what I mean? And it was either there or it wasn't there. And I don't know. I just think, look, I think they're in quite a lot of trouble. I think they need to get some European engineers. They need some help from the aerodynamics department. Like they were running. In the new aero, that Taka was running, I believe it looked like a KTM, and with the Aprilia side pads. Now, what I also found really interesting was Pramac Ducati on Friday were running the teardrop front ducts, not the normal side. Their side pads were different. And I thought, that's weird. Why would they try that? Do you know what I mean? And I genuinely think it's Ducati kind of a way of saying to Martin, because it was only Martin was trying the new parts. What were they trying to give them a level playing field to fight for the championship? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because they're developing two different aero strategies. I bet they do the same thing, but they're developing two different aero strategies. I suppose Aleix Espargaro and the race today. What did you think? Well, we raced yesterday, Sunday. He's finally got off the mark.
I didn't see it coming. What a mix of conditions this entire weekend. That's amazing. That's really, throwing curve balls, not just curve ball. And I mean, that's all I can say. Aleix is a dark horse a lot of times. is coming from nowhere. I think he was the only one this weekend that believed in himself, and he was vocal about it. Great job. He still has it in him, sure.
But I think Aprilia has strong engineering and they make a good strong bike. But I think it was just the expansion is getting to them. When they're such an itty bitty company, going from 2 bikes to 4 bikes for them is huge. They're doubling everything, right?
Yes.
So but they do make a good strong bike. They're all they need is a good rider. They need the alien.
We've covered that Joe before, and look, like the RNF team are financially in trouble, so it's Aprilia factory are picking up the tab to help them run that, right? So now Rivola is having a whinge or a whine about Ducati. He believes that they should now face sanctions because they have 8 bikes on the grid, so they should now get reduced testing allocation.
Oh, bullshit.
Yeah, so
absolutely.
Yeah, but look, anyway, look, I think there was an awful lot of pressure off Aleix this weekend, and I know that sounds a little bit weird, but like normally he's El Capitan, he's one that they all put the pressure on to get the results or whatever. However, Maverick was outgunning him this weekend, and Maverick is known to be good around Silverstone. In my view, so Alex was kind of a little bit step back, and like within the race, and I'll be very honest, he played it absolutely perfect. You know, he was strong where he needed to be strong. He was patient where he needed to be patient. And I know that sounds very weird to say about Aleix Espargaro, that he's patient, that he's strong, Jody. But no, he was patient, and you know, he struck at the right time.
Yeah, he said that. He said that. He said that once the rain started and he got to Pecco, he was patient enough to kind of see how the conditions will play it out. So he sat behind him, and waited for the right time to attack. And Maverick, I think Maverick is not a good return for the money that Aprilia is paying them.
Yeah, look, I think Maverick was very lucky to be in that space. I think
the mix, yeah.
Yeah, and I think, look, Oliveira did an amazing race as well, to be fair. I think he was like 15th or 16th on the grid. So to finish up there was that. But then that kind of shows me that this, and I know this sounds bad to say, but this racetrack suits the Aprilia. Do you know what I mean? And it's very evident. You know, you had 3 Aprilias in the top 5, and you had 4 Aprilias in the top 10. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Now Raul was fucking miles off them, to be fair, but
yes, I forgot all about him.
I think there's like there's just circuits where a bike suits, and I think that is one of them. That because there's a mixture of high speed and low speed corners within the track, and there's a more mixture of the low speed corners. But look, overall, I think, hats off to Alex. I think he rode probably one of the best races, and I would class that as good as the race that he rode in Assen, where he finished was a 4th. Mm-hmm. Do you know what I mean? And he came back through the field. Like, that was one that I would really class as alien-esque. Do you know what I mean? He knew what was going on. He knew that last lap, right, I'm gonna fucking have you. Do you know what I mean? I don't know where, but I'm gonna have you. Do you know what I mean? Because I'll be very honest, I saw it at the end of the Wellington Straight, he wasn't able to measure Pecco, and I was like, he's going to have to pressure or push Pecco, and you could just see him rolling through Cop's corner.
Yeah.
But no, just rolling through Cop's corner, he just kept it open. Like, do you know what I mean? He just, like, it was brave. Now, saying that,
very
Pecco
brave. Slicks when it's raining.
Pecco made some move down the Hangar Straight. I don't know, did you see it? But he passed Bezzecchi on the curb. And then he passed I was just like,
God.
It kind of reminded me of Rossi Lorenzo Catalunya all those years ago. When
I was sitting there going, Pecco, slow down, don't dump it.
Yeah.
If you notice, when he did that, they showed the onboard, and I'm like, oh my God, he's going off track.
Yeah.
He was so close, so brave. I mean, to me, he shows that he deserved the number 1 plate. He's acting performance-wise, like a true world champion. And the way he came to Aleix and hug him after the race, after he beat him up 3/4 to the end of the race, I think that was a true sportsman behavior.
It was, but like Pecco knows that Aleix is not a threat. Like, he's not a threat. Like, so, like, yeah, you can win the race. I've actually gained 20 points today.
Right. Bezzecchi was out.
Bezzecchi was out. Joe Martin was down in 5th. I've stretched my lead. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. Now, before when he was younger, he wouldn't have done that. He'd have pushed straight to the end.
He would have, but look, that you can't take that away. That's young, dumb, and full of confidence. Do you know what I mean? It's just like away on. But I suppose
taking a world title makes you acting a little bit more mature. You understand, the whole pattern is having his eyes towards you. So trying to set an example.
Like, I know this for myself. Like, there's a couple of key points in your racing career. Whatever class you go into, like, first time is your first podium, or then your first win, then your first championship, and there's an air of, I won't say cockiness, but it's confidence that comes with that. You know what I mean? That that you're good enough to belong there.
Absolutely.
And, like, realistically, Pecco knows where his fight is, and it's an internal fight now at the moment. Like, do you know what I mean? In two ways, it's internal in Ducati and it's internal in VR46. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So look, it will be interesting. Jorge Martin is probably the outsider there. Well, it's still internal with Ducati there, but Jorge Martin can flash hot and cold very quickly. So, but look, it'll be interesting. Now, one of the things we have to talk about, and I'm fucking disgusted, Fabio Quartararo.
Oh,
P22.
Oh, man.
Qualifying practice 1, at one stage he was 7 seconds a lap slower than Morbidelli.
What is up with that?
Did you see how much he suffered with the conditions? I've never seen him suffer that much from heat or cold. He was humoring. Like, he couldn't handle it. That obviously affects performance.
Yeah. Weren't you looking for something to be hurt, something to be torn, something to be? He was so bad. You're going, what's wrong with him? Something's off.
But it was the same. The Yamahas and the Hondas, you could see it. They just couldn't feel the front in the wet. They just couldn't. They were fucking scared to turn in. Do you know what I mean? And for me, that's like shit. Do you know, when you're that scared to turn the bike in, it's like, no bueno. Do you know what I mean?
But I mean, if you go to qualifying, Fabio is an ex-world champion, and he's last on the grid, where Augusto Fernandez is moving to qualifying number 2. I mean, to me that blows my mind. You outbeat that rookie.
Augusto Fernandez is a great rider, isn't that right, Jake? I've always
he does. Yes, sir. He's number 1 fan.
Stallion, of course.
Yeah, if Augusto wins the title, he's going to say, my number 1 fan has always been Mac. He's going to thank Mac for helping me through. Nobody knew who I was.
And highlighting that I'm better than Raul, isn't it? Look, I think where I look at these things is like all the Japanese bikes could not turn in the wet in Silverstone, right? And Silverstone is a track that really does exploit bad handling characteristics of any chassis. It's a little bit like Catalunya, right? Because the fast corners are really fast and the slow corners are really slow. Do you know what I mean? There's heavy braking points and there's a mixture of everything. And if you, in your mind, right now, drive around a lap of Silverstone, the first corner is fast, the second corner is fast, corner 3, 4, they're slow. Do you know what I mean? They're open out into a long, fast corner again, down into slow corners again, and it exploits your bad chassis.
Yeah, but Mac, I mean, at least the Yamahas were also always known for the fluidity of the chassis, how good handler they are. The outburst power was never there, but the chassis, the overall package was great, especially on the more flowing tracks. What happened?
They put power into the engine. That's what's happened.
Yeah.
And Lynn Jarvis categorically said this weekend, our one big victory this year is that we've got the engine right.
You gotta be careful what you wish for. One of those, huh?
Yeah, but Mac, what throws me off with that is that they've had many a times where they upped the power of that chassis and then fixed it afterwards. That was a commonplace at Yamaha. Add power, fix the chassis. Add power, fix the chassis. It's kind of like, one plus two equals 3. What's
and
happening?
Power and then take it away almost.
Look, it's for me with the way I look at it is what they've done. Yamaha, they've made a complete balls of it. Well, it's not a complete ball, so more so. Like they've added in the power. They tweaked the chassis, but they went the wrong direction in the tweak of the chassis. Right now, it's nearly too late to readdress that. 1 second there. So when I look at it, I'm kind of more so thinking like I think they fully understand now what or where they're wrong. Do you know what I mean? And for me, them coming out and saying quite recently that we don't understand aerodynamics, we don't understand it. I think this is the beginning of the Yamaha understanding that it's not just build a bike and bolt on aero. Like they have run this weekend on Friday and in today's race, Fabio did run the high aero. So he has homologated that high aero package now, right? So where I think this is going realistically, I think Yamaha are obviously going to outsource some aero, but I think they're now going to start bringing it in as a complete package, understanding how everything works. A couple of things I did notice today, what I thought was really interesting. Aprilia, for the rear ride height device. So Ducati, first of all, they armed the rear ride height device before the corner. Aprilia arm it just before corner exit. So if you watch it today, go back in today's feed, you'll watch Maverick, and he'll touch the button to arm the rear ride height device just before the exit. But anyway, back to Yamaha. I genuinely think that where they know and they understand where they're missing, I would be much more comfortable with them solving an engineering problem than Yamaha. And it is just an engineering problem because Yamaha have a fairly decent sized European test team. If you get me. So they're based in Europe.
Yeah.
So I think that is now
Yamaha has been stronger than Honda in their engineering department for years.
I have a completely different theory about what's going on with Yamaha, and my theory goes back many, many years. I don't think they're trying to be at the forefront. I remember the days where Rossi was highly competitive and he was begging for more power, a competitive bike underneath him. And there was always this, if you guys remember, there was always this promise of the first test, what they're going to bring. I was always keen to see, if this season they're going to deliver, and they never did. To me, it seems like also with signing Rins right now, it almost looks like they're trying to do the least to get the most. Like, let us bring a rider with good proven experience from the inline 4, and let's see if that helps us, the next step ahead. Also, when they signed Fabio, they saw Fabio upcoming in a satellite team, and they snitched him instead of trying to outperform their platform. They're trying to pick and choose from their surroundings to get more competitive. It almost seems like they're okay with being, at the best, second best on the grid.
What you're saying is, let me get this straight. You're trying to say that they're relying on the rider more than to fix the bike.
I think they're trying to spend as least resources as they can to kind of be out there. You know what I mean? They're not trying to develop their package. Many years, if you go back many years, they haven't done anything radical. And if they tweak the power, they didn't do the supporting mods for the chassis, so they have to tweak it down. And now they're trying to get another rider with a proven experience from the inline-4 because, maybe there's some hidden gem over there. But it seems like they're not trying to put effort into the platform.
Well, no, it makes sense, firstly, to get another rider with experience on an inline-4, right? Rather than a V, right? Because it's a shorter adaptation period.
Right.
Stop, right? I don't believe there's any team or manufacturer just there to take part, if I'm very, very honest. The reason that Yamaha will not move off an inline-4 is because the minute that they do, they're like a brand new MotoGP team coming into the championship. They will have no data. They will have no understanding. Yes, they will have the likes of Marmoni, who knows how to build engineers, but if our engines, etc. But what they're going to put themselves into is a situation like Honda now is currently in. Right now, Yamaha can look back at the last 4 or 5 years and say, okay, with a similar engine spec to what we have now, these are what we predict is going to happen. They're not going to have any of that data.
But Mac, even 5 years ago, if they were make the change, they were in the same position like you're describing now 5 years ago, and today they had 5 years of experience with a better platform. You got to make the step someday if you want to be competitive. Correct me if I'm wrong. Between all the manufacturers, not just the Japanese, Yamaha is the least innovative. They have the least new parts, the least testing. Did you hear what they said about Crutchlow's next wild card? A turning point? How in the hell could that be a turning point? Especially mid-seasons where you cannot implement the changes.
But that was put out by Marigali and Lynn Jarvis, right? So, look, Joe, you never believe a word that comes out of their mouth, to be fair and be honest, right? Right. And look, I will say what Fabio said, and I think it's probably one of the most correct quotes that has ever come out of a rider's mouth. And he said, besides my rookie year, every year I was fighting for world championships with Yamaha. And this year I'm fighting for points. So let that sink in.
Very true. It's very honest. Yeah, it's very honest.
Now, Jody, so that's an indication of where they're going. And then he followed on that Yamaha now have to deliver on their promises. Now, what promises have they made to Fabio? We don't know. You want more power, we give you more power.
But how hard did they have to struggle to get that power? And how reliable is it to get that power? They can definitely get the same power out of an inline-4 than a V4, but it blows up. Apparently, that's what happened to Suzuki. That's what happened. He went through the Yamahas. They went through them like paper. So,
but if you look at the fast riders on the V4, the fastest of the fast ones, they're now starting to go to the hybrid riding style of inline-4 to V4. So that's also now going to take all the strengths away. Like, for example, normally the Aprilias are terrible at following other bikes. Terrible. Do you know what I mean? They can run their own lines and they can be very fast, but if someone is in front of them, they're goosed. Do you know what I mean? And if someone is running a wholesome V4 line, they're definitely goosed. So I think the advantage is slowly slipping away for the inline-4. And look, Gigi Dall'Igna, who you have to take your head off, or your hat off to him, should I say? Fucking beer's kicking in. You have to take your head off to him. He openly came out and said, if I was doing it all over again, I would still go V4, right?
Yeah.
So
that's why it's phased out. No, all their motors.
Yeah, but when you come back to the whole point then of when is the right time to change your engine spec? And the short answer to that is that there's never the right time. It's always going to impact. It's always going to impact you. But when is the least impact?
Yeah.
And probably the least impact is that the regulations change. Do you know what I mean?
Of course. Yeah.
That's not till the end of 2026. So I would think Yamaha will keep going with the inline-4 until then. It saddens me because I think I think they brought a knife to a gunfight, if I'm very honest, because of what Pecco and them are now starting to do with running inline 4 lines on a V4.
Yeah.
And so now they're going to, for example, and you could see it today actually with Pecco, when he comes out of the corner, he gets that initial jump because he's already carrying that speed. So he's able just to pull that slight gap. You could see it when he defended down into after the Wellington straight today from Malaysia Spagger on the last lap. He pulled just slightly coming out of that corner. Do you know what I mean? And it's just slight. You're talking maybe
it's all it needs. Yeah.
Exactly, because the person that's going to try and level you on the brakes to get past
now needs to take more risk. Yeah.
So look, I think it's very interesting. I think the race this weekend, I will be honest, I think the sprint race was a bit dull. I know it was wet and rainy. Do you know what I mean? I was just I suppose because of the weather conditions, I was expecting more crashes or whatever. So, and then the fact that there wasn't.
I thought Fabio would do better with different races. I thought that would even him out.
I was waiting for they set my tire pressures wrong again. The back. So to me, there's
we got the crashes on the race. There was plenty of them. I was surprised because most races was dry.
Yeah, and I don't know. Did you hear when they said with Bezzecchi when he crashed, he got sucked in and he lost the front air and the tire locked.
I thought that was interesting. Are the bikes that sensitive under braking with the aero?
They would be, yeah, because you would be expecting that you can drive it in a bit further. Do you know what I mean? But
I think he just pushed it too much. He was trying to narrow down the gap on the brakes because think about all the fights that we're seeing, how guys are being close to each other. We haven't seen that kind of an impact on the front.
Stowe is a slightly banked in corner going in, right? So you're not going to lose the front going into Stowe unless there's something. And you can see he locked the front. So did he think that he was going to hit Pecco, or did he just, all of a sudden have a oh shit moment? I don't have the front grip. I don't know, but it was
second option, I think.
Yeah, it was just I suppose. When that happened, and then the rain came in and LH closed it down, I was like, thank God that we're going to have it. And then 8 laps to go. I thought it was impressive, to be honest. And look, you have to hand it to Maverick as well. He has a good track record around Silverstone. I suppose the last thing we talk about this week is Marc Marquez and what is going to happen. I find it very funny that Honda didn't give him the upgrades. Right? Yeah. For the person beating his fucking chest, give me parts. Then to go back to a base setting bike. Now, Mir was there. Then all the rumors around KTM. KTM have said, that they have no update on the current situation. Their home race is in 2 weeks' time. They normally like to announce special things in that time. Is he going to go? Is he not going to go?
Well,
I don't know.
A disclosure, I'm a Marc Marquez fan. I wasn't always. I turned out to be.
No one's perfect. No one's perfect.
Yeah, I know. I know. But I want to throw a curveball. You don't think Marc has a saying about the type of hybrid bike he's going to race with? Do you think he just got an instruction from, HRC above management and he's a monkey on a bike?
I think so. This would new parts, according to Alex Rins, new parts have always gone to Repsol first, right? Bradle, this is not a new concept that has been brought around. Bradle already had this out around Jerez, so they understand that there was data points there, right? Silverstone, in my view, would be probably one of the best test bed circuits that you could test anything on, because, as I said, the tracks. There's fast corners, slow corners. There's a natural flow of them there. So you would, as a rider, would gather so much data. But for it to go to Nakagami on a Kalex, there's no correlation back to what Repsol are doing. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but I think there is a lot of insights that we are not aware about. There is the bigger picture that, I mean, we don't know where they're trying to aim, what they're trying to check.
I don't think they know themselves either. Do you know what I mean? And like that's what I was saying, that like for me that bike looked an awful lot like a KTM, more so than a Ducati, right? So is this them just putting their version of this just to try? I don't know. And I think a big thing is that Nakagami didn't race it, so
yeah, it didn't help.
So he said he wasn't confident with it. Now look, pushing more aero, which that aero system is, right? I still don't understand how this is going to help, because Mark says one of the places where they're losing mostly is in acceleration. Do you know what I mean? So if you put more wings on it,
acceleration. I mean, to me, the bike looks unstable. Like every time you're trying to ride to the limit of what the bike can give you, it just snaps. You don't see it coming.
Exactly, and look, they've gone back to an on-off switch. Do you know what I mean? It's there, and it's like the old Bridgestones that you could just ride off the edge of the tire.
Right.
I mean, there was no warning, and I think that's kind of where Honda have found themselves back into again, is that they're in a terrible predicament of they don't have a direction because they don't have data, like they don't want to. Which I think is a courageous move out of Honda, and I'll be fair. Very simplest thing that they could have done at the start of 2022 or 2023 was go back to what Mark knows best, right? And they're not. Do you know what I mean? So I don't think Honda are asleep at the wheel. I think they're doing this for a specific purpose, but is that? And I think they may have had a belief that Mark could ride around it. Do you know what I mean?
Like he did for many years. They definitely have a problem. They definitely have a problem on the front, but to me, it seems like they have also a very big problem with electronics. I mean, the high sides he's been getting, I cannot explain it. Even if the chassis is shit, where is the electronics? It's supposed to step in at that point, and at least attempt to save you from yourself.
Yeah,
and it's not doing that.
Yeah. It's not, but then saying that, like, you have to remember as well, you as a rider or a racer, you never 100% rely on your electronics. You should never. Do you know what I mean? And
true, like, I don't think he does.
I think he does now.
Oh, really?
I don't think he does now anymore, should I say? You know what I mean? And Mark, I think, is a sort of rider. You turn around to him. I don't know if you ever watch Looney Tunes, but like you give him like a special sup of water and say, there's half a second in that, and he'd be like, all right.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? And he'll trust Hernandez as engineer. Do you know what I mean? But I think the situation with Mark and Honda, I think it's soured, but I think Mark is still cute to the fact that unless he's going to go to someone like KTM or Aprilia, who are ready to win, in my view, win consistently, he's not really going to jump ship immediately.
I don't think he's going anywhere. I just want to put it on the record. I don't think he's going anywhere for next season. I think the options are not, as good as he would wish. So it may be better just staying where he is. That's my take on it.
Look, I would tend to agree with you. Unless this KTM issue gets solved with Dorna, and I think Dorna, for two Spanish riders, I think they'll make it happen.
I think they're going to make it happen too.
If I'm honest, right? They did have Pit Buyer on. He's like, we're still talking to teams. We're still talking to Dorna. It hasn't gone away, I would call it. But the other thing I think with Marquez has unfortunately in the past couple of years now found out that he's a human being. Do you know what I mean? And he gets hurt. And like, you look at what happened in Sachsenring, he's still suffering effects from that. Do you know what I mean? And he's like, he even said, I'm not fully fit. Like,
the alarm clock went off. We used to call it. The alarm clock went off when your body goes, no, you can't do that anymore. And it happens like that.
If you add to that the fact that he's trying to kind of cool himself down from how competitive he is because he understands the bike underneath him doesn't support his talent or his riding ability. I think that's the most dangerous situation for a competitive rider. That you're trying to tell yourself, let me just finish the season, but being, with the backpack, I mean, that cools yourself. You're like dropping all your guards and, your sharpness. You're becoming a relaxed rider. Now, how do you go back to the edge for the next season?
Well, he's doing that now. I think Marquez is just riding around. That's why he had the thing. He's just riding. You let Martin pass him. Okay, whatever. I'm not busting my hump. I'm only going to ride to this bike's capabilities, and that's all there is to it.
But what do you think?
People me to do this for years, and I'm finally taking their advice.
But after half a season like this, what do you think it's going to do to you mentally? How do you think you're going to be as a racer?
But I think that I think the bike has beaten him into this point.
Yeah, exactly.
The bike.
I agree, but I'm asking, where is the end result? What kind of Marc Marquez it will make him to be?
But that's what fuels the thing that he has to get off that bike.
Yeah,
and that's he can't go through another year. Like if he gets to Misano, and the bike is similar,
that could be a turning point. I agree. That could be a turning point.
I think it happened before that, Joe. I mean,
really?
Well, look at I think it will happen before. I think he has no interest in riding that Honda in the way it is.
Yeah, I think he went in there and said, "Get me off this thing." I went off. Went to the lawyers already. Went to his manager. Get me off. Find a way out.
I hear everyone screaming "fire, fire, fire" when it comes to Marc Marquez, but I can't see the smoke. I mean, all the recent interviews from the peer group, and the way Mark is taking those questions, it doesn't seem like there's something cooking there. I don't know. Maybe they're just too good.
So with Marquez, and look, Simon Crafar said this best, that he's prickly, right? And he is media savvy, and he understands exactly what's going on in the media. So, and he knows exactly how to manipulate the media into whatever he wants. He has to say that there's no smoke without fire, or he has to say that I'm not going to KTM because it's probably not done deal yet. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's not going to announce that. Like, so for instance, we knew 4 weeks ago that Rins was going to Yamaha. Everyone in the fucking house knew it, right?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It was last time I heard it 3 or 4 weeks ago that it was just down to personal terms. So the agreement had been done. So it's just down to money and then whatever, right? So it's no surprise for me that, Mark's team would have that done within the next, just say 2 weeks, and it would be announced 4 weeks later. It's all who can keep it quiet. Do you know what I mean? And that's where I think very, very, very little people know what exact stage is. KTM has to deny it also, because like you have 4 riders there that, there's already 5 riders for next year, right? Contracted. What happens if they thought a 6th one? Do you know what I mean? And there's going to be no team. So that is 2 riders already demotivated for the thing, because, well, you're lowest on the totem pole, right? So, and let's be fair.
And he's come from a racing family. And he's come from a racing family who taught him, you keep your mouth shut since he was a kid.
So you guys think Dorna is in on it with, what Carlos Espeleta has said? There's not going to be another, 2 bikes for the KTM group?
So I'll put it to you this way. If there's a chance next year that Marc Marquez will not be on the grid because they can't give him a bike and he wants off that Honda, it'll happen. 100%. Dorna will turn around and say, okay, we will give you a 2-year contract to run Husqvarna or whatever.
You think that would be an Husqvarna or an MV Agusta? What kind of brand do you think they want to itch into the
What sticker are you going to have?
I think
Agusta just because of the marketing value, but that's me.
That's something else I want to ask. How can they allow themselves to miss all the marketing opportunities with being in MotoGP, being competitive with MotoGP, and not having proper sports bikes. I mean, a few nakeds, but nothing, super sport, super bike.
Who? KTM?
Yeah, KTM.
They're working on a 990 at the moment, actually. I think it's due release.
I would love to see that. Sign me up for that.
Yeah.
The 990. Oh, I didn't hear that either. 990, a super bike.
Superbike, yeah.
It's going to be V12 or they're doing V4?
Yeah, I don't know. I just referenced an article at it, and I was like,
"Yeah, my pocket's getting warm." I said V4. I'm going to spend money.
I don't know whether it's a V4 or
not. Jake, maybe we can get a deal on 2.
Yeah, right. I'll go instant.
Let's team up.
Oh,
here,
Simon,
Jake,
you have like this. You know what I had once? I write this down. A Roar 1250 SC. The supercharged bike from America, ROEHR 1250 SC.
SC.
Have a look at it. It's an interesting bike. But I think Jake, personally, the amount of shit that you talked about KTM, MV Augusta,
they're not going to give you one.
Not only are they not going to give you one, they will give you one, but they'll charge you 3 times the price. Anyway, I think overall, I think it's great to have racing back. It was good to get things done.
Oh man, that 5 weeks were long. That was long.
Man,
it was too long. Was it 5 weeks last time? But we had 2.
Yeah. No,
we didn't have 2. We had 2 breaks this year. It was like it started, stop.
Yeah.
Anyway, perfect. Look, we'll wrap it up there. Just for people, just to let them know, I did put up the poll about whether I would actually miss a day's video. I do not currently have a video made for Tuesday. So we will see you again on Wednesday.
Well, forgive me, a summer break for you as well.
Yeah, you can have a day off. If you can have two summer breaks, you can have a day off. You're allowed, Mac. Yeah,
that's it. And should have.
Dorna took 5 weeks, Mac. I mean.
That's it. But look, thank you very much, Simon, for coming on, and
of course,
we'll definitely do it again in the future. Jakey Poo,
I would love to.
Be good.
I'll be good,
and we'll see you all again next week.
Thank you, guys.
Folks.
Same bat time, same bat channel.